All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. You are taking part in EROAD's debut webinar, our first internally driven webinar. We've used the webinars and the opportunities with state associations, and now we are taking that upon ourselves, and I think that we are ready to go. Today, we'll talk about 5 ways to reduce your ELD and tax compliance stress. This is a pretty big subject, so we want to, and we hear it all the time, so we want to talk a little bit about it. I'm Gail Levario. I'm part of the strategy and market development team for EROAD, and along with me, who you'll be hearing mostly from her today, Brittany Clark. Brittany is our product manager for our tax team, and she's responsible for leading the development of EROAD's suite of tax solutions for its U.S. operation. Brittany brings over 7 years of experience in the tax and revenue industry to this role and works directly with the development team on a daily basis to ensure that our products and solutions are highly accurate and intuitive, and that we are accurately and very substantially delivering it to our customers. So she's uniquely qualified to be talking about this particular subject today, so we hope you enjoy it. Brittany's got the controls. There we go. So today, just to elaborate just a little bit, we'll talk about those 5 main ways a technology solution can reduce your stress. Reducing paperwork is one of the key factors in all parts of the business, not just with electronic logging devices, with tax, with fleet management, everything that you've got going on. Reducing paperwork is key, especially when it comes to facing regulators who have to sift through all those. We want to make it easy for you. Easy compliance, like I said, the regulators, the easier time they have, the less they're in your hair, and then they leave your office quickly. Making each day workday more efficient, having more time to do the real job of managing your fleet operations, letting your drivers drive, letting you guys run your show, take care of your people. That's pretty important to us as well. We know that our customers are very, very focused on a quality operation, so we want to make your workday more efficient by helping you with that technology. Improving accuracy, Brittany is going to be talking very specifically about improving accuracy in everything that you're doing in terms of compliance. So again, we'll talk a little bit about the ELD, we'll talk about tax, but we'll talk about the broader platform in general. Let's see, and making everyone's job easier. Of course, that's kind of a no-brainer, but this is really the bottom line, is making everyone's job easier, more efficient, more accurate, and with less paperwork. And so hopefully at the end of the webinar, you should have less stress by ensuring your technology solution and provider can give you the means and provide you the means to achieve both ELD and tax compliance on one single platform. And we'll be bringing that theme of a single platform throughout the conversation. We'll be monitoring questions asked, and we'll have a question and answer session after the presentation. We would like to keep this somewhat mid to high level. Anything more detailed, we will certainly take those and then get back to you within 24 hours if we have any very detailed questions. So with that, we'll continue on. So I'm just going to talk about this slide. We wanted to put this up just for the comedy factor, but I can tell you this is a real customer of ours. This is Deanna. This was before EROAD. We did a video of this company about how our solution and technology in general reduced their stress, and you can see here's the before picture with Deanna in her office. This is no kidding. These are real fuel receipts. These are real trip notes, trip records, and those boxes are not staged. So again, this is the before picture. We will bring you to the after picture after, and it is a real customer. So we thought we'd pop that in for a little bit of comedy hour. So with that, Brittany, take it away.
Thanks, Gail. So before we get started, I wanted to take a closer look at what going electronic means. On the far left, you can see that by installing an in-vehicle device, most of the work you're accustomed to doing on paper is now done automatically, such as capturing hours of service for reporting and roadside inspections, the distance traveled, locations, routes, and operational data. Not to mention that with a rapid ping rate, a powerful mapping engine, and a sophisticated geofence tool, going electronic with an in-vehicle device is more accurate than the traditional paper-based information typically captured by your drivers. Next, you can see that the in-vehicle device records, stores, and continuously transmits encrypted data to a web-based application where users access information and services online. Using the information recorded, an electronic compliance management solution can display and report distance and location traveled by vehicles and by jurisdiction, including state line crossings, calculate taxes owed, and generate supporting records needed for compliance. Not only can an electronic solution help you stay compliant, but with all of the information captured electronically and available at your fingertips in the web-based application, you can also benefit from better fuel and fleet management, as well as improved driver safety by having full visibility into your vehicles and drivers. Similarly, management of your compliance needs is also made easier by going electronic. Having your data all in one solution helps you meet record keeping requirements, record retention requirements, and helps you to file your tax obligations on time. On paper, the tax process from start to finish can be quite cumbersome, time-consuming, and inaccurate, but by going electronic, the entire process can be streamlined to help reduce the amount of time you and your business spend on compliance. Now, let's take a look at 5 ways going electronic can help reduce your stress. The first way to reduce your stress by going electronic is with reduced paperwork. By choosing a best-in-class electronic solution, you can remove the need to rely on your drivers for paper trip sheets for tax records, say goodbye to paper logs for hours of service compliance, eliminate the need to reconcile miles and fuel data, and remove the need for multiple spreadsheets to calculate your average fleet's MPG and calculate taxes owed at the end of each reporting period. Taking stacks of paper from your drivers to translate the data into meaningful summaries and returns can be very data-heavy, exhausting, worrisome, time-consuming, and inefficient. When there is no longer a need to rely on drivers for accurate and complete records on paper, there is less time spent chasing down drivers for their paper records on a regular basis or hopping into each truck when it arrives back in your yard to record odometer readings. Drivers typically spend a good portion of their time on the road and away from the office. Having these records automatically populated and available to your back office team at any time helps speed up the tax reconciliation process, especially at the end of the reporting period. By going electronic, you can dramatically reduce the admin time spent recreating each driver's every trip in Google Maps or another mapping tool, and hope you pick that the route taken when verifying their trip sheet information. And don't forget, it's not just about miles, but fuel too. There is no longer a need to spend time matching fuel receipts with mileage records when going electronic. With electronic trip records available in a single location, there are less stacks of paper to sift through, like we saw in that previous image of our customer Deanna, but there is now also less paper for you to store in your office to meet the record retention requirements of 6 months for ELD and 4 years for IFTA. Preparing your monthly, quarterly, and yearly summaries for IFTA and IRP has never been easier with less paperwork to sift through, manage, and store. And as each driver is different, you can reduce your stress by having consistency across all drivers with electronic trip records. While Joe, as an example, might not have the best penmanship, Cheryl might write in a shorthand that is only obvious to her. Deciphering drivers' trip records might be more difficult than it has to be. Having less paperwork to deal with allows you to focus on running your fleet and serving your customers instead of crunching numbers to beat the filing deadline each period and hope that you're correct, especially when it comes to undergoing an audit. The second way to reduce your stress by going electronic is with easy compliance. With less paperwork to manage and rely on, going electronic also means compliance is now made easy. As the ELD mandate deadline is fast approaching, selecting the best ELD provider may be a daunting task. With more and more providers being added to the FMCSA registry regularly, there are now close to 50 electronic solutions for you to sift through and to decide which one is best for your business. You will want to ensure that the provider you choose can meet the ELD requirements, but also provide more than just an ELD. As mentioned previously, deciphering Joe and Cheryl's trips may be time-consuming and frustrating, but what if you regularly have new drivers who are unfamiliar with the record-keeping requirements and forget to write down the quick trips taken to drop off a load of freight from time to time before heading home for the weekend? This can mean their paper trip sheets have missed miles altogether, or even worse, have a beginning odometer reading that doesn't match the last odometer reading from a previous trip or month, also referred to as gap miles. Unfortunately, gap miles are quite prevalent when using paper trip reports and are one of the first items states look for when a state is conducting an audit on a motor carrier. With all of the hustle and bustle in the office and interruptions that occur on the regular, this may inadvertently result in calculation or transposition errors on your summaries, which assist with filling out your tax returns. Or, if you happen to wait until the last minute to file your tax returns, you may not have enough time to complete them on time if you run into an error or realize that you haven't collected all the trip information from your drivers yet. This could result in a late penalty or having to file an amended tax return once you realize it was filed with an error. There's also the worry about having inadequate records when undergoing an audit, which can be extremely stressful. While you may already be overwhelmed by the sheer volume of ELD providers, you must use caution when making your selection. Manufacturers are required to test and certify to FMCSA that their devices meet the new standards. FMCSA has created a public registry of devices that have been self-certified by their manufacturer to be compliant with the FMCSA rule. Buyers need to be aware of the fact that inclusion of an ELD on the FMCSA registry of self-certified product offerings does not necessarily mean the listed device is compliant with the FMCSA mandate. If the FMCSA finds that an ELD listed on its register does not comply with the technical specifications, then the FMCSA may initiate removal of an ELD from its list. If an ELD is removed from the list, FMCSA will alert the industry through announcements on its website and other communications. The onus is on the motor carrier to do their homework before making a purchasing decision. Your ELD provider may test on their own and claim their ELD is compliant, but the bottom line is that it will ultimately be you that runs the risk of non-compliance if the ELD solution is removed from the registry. As a potentially high-stakes consequence, this could mean you need to take your vehicles off the road until you find another option to stay compliant. Make sure you do your homework now to ensure you are making the right buying choice. This can reduce your stress significantly, as many will be panicking at the end of the year to meet the December 2017 deadline and hope that they made the correct buying decision. Going electronic can also reduce your stress by automatically generating the required supporting reports, records, and summaries, eliminating the need to rely on drivers and any complex internal business processes to calculate and determine your tax obligations, preventing accidental math errors, putting into late tax filings, increase the confidence in those tax filings, and eliminating guesswork for miles and fuel data by having to rely on incomplete records. We've heard from customers that they overestimate miles as a safeguard measure, but this leads to an overpayment of tax liability. Part of being compliant with an electronic solution helps safeguard you against an audit assessment. Let your telematics partner do the hard work and research so you can do what you do best, run your business. Did you know that jurisdictions are required to audit 3% of their carriers each year? In California alone, this equates to over 650 audits per year. The 2015 IFTA Annual Report, available on the IFTA Clearinghouse's website, reports that 82% of carriers who underwent an IFTA audit in 2015 had an audit assessment. This could be in the result of additional tax, penalty, and interest due to your base jurisdiction for your IFTA obligation. Some of the audit assessments that can be made include inadequate records, record retention, and disallowing of tax-paid fuel purchases. In California last year, over 500 audits ended with an assessment of some kind. If the carrier's records are impaired or missing, your base jurisdiction can make an adjustment based on various external factors, such as industry averages, third-party records such as fuel card providers, organizations with similar operations such as of your own, and even looking at other vehicles in your fleet. In the event that mileage and fuel information cannot be substantiated, jurisdictions have the ability to adjust the fleet's MPG to 4.0 or a 20% reduction in the reported MPG. Let's look at an example of what this could mean to your bottom line. ABC Trucking is based in California and operates 250,000 miles per quarter in California. ABC Trucking reports an average fleet MPG of 7.0. For diesel fuel in California, where the tax rate is 40 cents per gallon, a 20% MPG reduction means that a 7.0 MPG could be reduced to 5.6, and your business would owe an additional $3,500 in tax to just California. If a 4.0 MPG was applied, your business would owe over $10,700 in tax. This doesn't include any interest or penalties that could also be applied. Again, take a look at your telematics provider who can help you be compliant with an electronic solution that can safeguard you against an audit assessment. The third way to reduce your stress by going electronic is with increased efficiency. You may currently feel like you and your business processes are somewhat inefficient, which ultimately equates to wasted time and money. Going electronic can put an end to throwing money out the window with hours of service violations or burning fuel when you don't need to. Just last week at the IRP annual meeting in Tempe, Arizona, the Arizona Department of Transportation reported that 90% of the roadside inspections completed resulted in at least one violation. Using a single platform that does more than just meet the ELD mandate means you gain better insights into your drivers and fleet. Having one solution to manage your data, drivers, and fleet gives you full visibility into what your drivers are doing while on the road. Electronic solutions can help provide key metrics and insight into driver performance, such as the number of harsh braking events, fast accelerations, and speeding violations. Getting near real-time notifications about your drivers allows you to benchmark them against others inside and outside of your organization, make decisions, and take actions faster to prevent driver fatigue and other unwanted behavior out on the road, which can result in inspection violations, speeding tickets, and can put your drivers and others at risk. Use an electronic solution to support organizational driver training and reward programs. Not only can electronic solutions improve driver safety, but with an interactive and visual summary of fleet operational data, they can also monitor the idling time, fuel efficiency, mileage information, geofence entries and exits, and vehicle utilization for you to implement better business practices that save you time and money. When something is amiss or needs to be broadcast to your fleet, you can use built-in messaging to notify your drivers instantly instead of waiting for them to arrive back in the office or have access to email. An electronic service module allows you to set periodic and custom service scheduling by date, distance, and engine utilization for your vehicles. You can record supplier and service details, costs, and invoice numbers for each service, allowing you to benchmark and monitor the trends by vehicle, service category, and supplier. A full service history can be stored and easily accessed anytime you need it. Lastly, there is no need to duplicate work by having an automatic data capture. There is no more need for drivers to report their miles on paper and then have someone from your back office rerun the trips to verify. This process is inefficient and can be eliminated altogether by going electronic. The fourth way to reduce your stress by going electronic is with increased accuracy. Another stress inducer is the accuracy of your data. With paper, you and your office staff are forced to guess where your drivers are and how long they've been there. What about missing equipment? Have you ever lost a trailer that you thought you knew was safe? Or how about when it comes to filing and you end up estimating the number of miles per state for your IFTA return or your annual IRP renewal? With an electronic solution, you can reduce your stress by having hours of service visibility at any time. Not only will going electronic reduce your paperwork, increase compliance and efficiency, but it can also assist with the automatic capture of state line crossings and number of miles per state per vehicle without any manual work or intervention by your drivers or back office staff. This increases the accuracy of your records and reports. This leaves less room for error calculating the tax due, and not necessarily mathematical errors, but errors due to inaccurate paper trip records. You can also save extensive money by saving on equipment replacement costs when a trailer or other piece of attached equipment goes missing. Here at EROAD, we had a customer who called in a panic when one of their trucks went off the road in a freak snowstorm. Their dispatch called us and we were able to locate the vehicle and get them to help. Due to the highly accurate and reliable mileage information captured from an in-vehicle device, the on- and off-road trip details are recorded with pinpoint precision. Electronic reporting capabilities make it possible to identify IFTA exempt miles according to the individual jurisdictional requirements. Any IFTA exempt miles can then be automatically accounted for when it comes to calculating and preparing the quarterly IFTA return data. This can reduce your stress by being confident that you will only pay what you owe and avoid any guesswork when deciphering driver's trip sheets to determine mileage and fuel fill-up details with all of the necessary fields required. Due to the complexity and detailed record-keeping requirements, most carriers are not able to benefit from exempt mile savings prior to enhancing their business with an electronic solution. It has been reported that prior to making the switch to electronic records, keeping detailed records about on- and off-road miles were too cumbersome to keep on paper, with the accuracy and maintain the supporting records needed, which means that all of those miles were being counted as taxable miles. One of our customers was not taking advantage of their yard moves prior to going electronic. They learned that each fuel fill in their yard was a half-mile round trip off-road. Imagine how many exempt miles this would be at the end of a month, quarter, and even year. When the IFTA Procedures Manual was recently updated at the beginning of this year, it included changes to the record-keeping requirements. The changes took into consideration the advances in technology since the last Procedures Manual update. And now with the ELD mandate looming on the horizon, most carriers will fall privy to the sections specific to those carriers using a telematics provider for distance records, including the original GPS coordinates. Not only do carriers rely on their drivers for accurate records when using paper, but they must also stay up to date on any changes to the requirements, in addition to their normal day-to-day job, which may include additional training and knowledge. In addition to mileage records, carriers can now take advantage of operational data automatically collected by the in-vehicle device, such as the exact location information of fuel fill-ups. This leaves no doubt as to where and when that vehicle was last filled up. And finally, the fifth way your stress can be reduced by going electronic is to make everyone's job easier. In the end, making everyone's job easier is what everyone should expect when going from a heavily manual paper-based process to one that relies solely on technology to make things happen automatically and a lot more efficiently. For your drivers, going electronic removes the burden from your drivers on hours of service and tax records, increases their safety for themselves and others, allows them to focus on what they were hired to do, drive, and simplifies their job duties by having an intuitive in-vehicle device that they can easily be trained on and that is very easy to use. For your office team, going electronic means having a seamless update of software without the need to make changes or perform software updates in-house. With the touch of a button, you can have an end-to-end tax filing method that automatically produces the files and documents you need to submit your tax returns each reporting period. You can make better use of your time, decrease the amount of duplicated work, and streamline the process all at the same time. By decreasing the handling of documentation, there is a decreased chance of losing or misplacing documents and human error. So you can spend more time running the business, such as optimizing your fleet, fuel, and drivers, instead of getting caught up in the nuances of tax filing and reporting. With better visibility into your day-to-day business, be better informed anytime, all the time. Remember, what's easy for your drivers is also easy for you. Now, before we open up the webinar to any questions you might have, I wanted to walk through some of the advantages you will receive from choosing a telematics partner like EROAD. EROAD's FMCSA registered in-vehicle device is extremely easy to install and easy for your drivers to adopt and use. Plus, you can benefit from having the device tethered to the cab instead of being mobile on a phone or a tablet to avoid lost or damaged devices. Some of the operational data captured by the rugged in-vehicle device includes engine on and off times, the idling time, speed, GPS location, state line crossing, and geofence entries and exits. Our simplified touchscreen allows drivers to easily enter in their hours of service information, bills of lading, fuel fills that automatically record the vehicle's location information, and send messages back to the office. As you've seen today, going electronic can help you stay compliant, and EROAD's solution is no exception. Quarterly IFTA record keeping, reconciliation, and filing is a breeze with EROAD. And now with our electronic IRP offering, there is no reason why your ELD provider can't help you do both. With EROAD, you can expect to fill out and file your returns in about 1/10 of the time each period when moving from paper to electronic records. EROAD's customer service is also top-notch. Our dedicated team is responsive, knowledgeable, and friendly. Our customer success in their business is the motivation behind everything they do. The customer success team is devoted to providing the tools and service necessary to achieve optimal results with the EROAD solution from day one of your journey with EROAD. While EROAD's in-vehicle device is easy to use, it also provides superior accuracy. Benefiting from a continuous ping rate that is sampled by the in-vehicle hardware every once per second translates into highly accurate mileage records that comprise our intuitive and powerful reports and is within plus or minus 0.5% accurate of true distance. Our mileage records were independently and government verified and determines on and off-road miles with extreme precision, including an automatic exempt mile determination for IFTA according to the individual jurisdictional requirements, providing increased savings for you and your business. Without superior accuracy, you could be missing out on potential savings, such as those for exempt miles, or even worse, your records could be considered inadequate or non-compliant in the event of an audit or roadside inspection. If the ping rate is once Every 10 to 15 minutes, are you confident you know where your truck went during that time? EROAD also has an industry-leading 99.98% service uptime. The service uptime determines the amount of time available for you to access the system and your data. With EROAD, you can expect less than 6 minutes of downtime each month. Even a system with an uptime of 95%, which is a small difference, it still has an impact on providing full visibility into and control of your business. This is the difference between minutes and days per month where you cannot access your data or your data is lost midstream because the system went down, which then means more stress and frustration on you and your back office team. With EROAD, there's no need for additional software to meet your ELD requirements and manage your entire tax process from record keeping to filing. Updates are automatic, seamless, and all of your data is stored in one location. And now, back to Gail.
Thanks, Brittany. I hope all of you can see the after picture here. So this is Dale and Deanna. This was after installing EROAD into their equipment, into their rather large fleet. It's, you know, it's, as Brittany was saying, it's not just the paper savings or the reduction in paperwork. It's the reduction in time. It's the increased efficiency. And I think one of the most important things that Brittany brought up, especially when she brought up the anecdote about the snowstorm, it's the increased security that you have, not only around not losing your data, but not losing your trucks and your equipment and your people. And that's really, really important. In the example that she gave around the snowstorm in Idaho, this was a truck that had gone off the side of the road in a snowdrift and nobody could see it, and the person did not know, the driver, I'm sorry, did not know where they were and couldn't call for help. So, you know, the fact that they had the automatic reaction to just give us a call and ask us for help was something that we were very, very pleased and proud to be able to help with. And so Dale and Deanna are so funny because this is truly their after. They just don't have to worry about that. So we wanted to add this in to show you that real customers do experience real efficiency and real security with the EROAD system. So I think Brittany covered all of that. And to the even better news, I think, we'll talk to you about this Yeti cooler giveaway that we have. For everybody who attended the webinar today, we'll be doing a random drawing to win this Yeti cooler, because we think that the more relaxed you are now, if you have EROAD in your fleet, the more relaxed you are, the more you can fill it with this frosty beverage of your choice this summer. So we wanted to be able to do this. We think it's a great giveaway. I know all of us in the office want one, but we're willing to actually share it. So we'll be doing that after the end of this webinar, and we'll notify the winner by email, and we're hoping that the winner will be able to take a picture of the Yeti cooler once they receive it, and send us a picture of how they're relaxing with less stress. So with that, we'll wrap up and pass it over to any questions and comments.
Yeah. So the first question is for you, Brittany. How do you calculate off-road miles?
Yep. So at EROAD, we have a proprietary map layer. And we also have verification with each individual jurisdiction. And we also use the IFTA Inc. website to validate whether or not a road portion is taxable or not.
All right, and our next question is, can you tell me if you are actively shipping product today, and do you have the capacity to serve fleets of around 100 trucks?
Absolutely, yes. We have some larger fleets. In fact, we just brought a customer on board with well over 100 trucks, and we'll be able to provision them well. We are ready to go. Our ELD is on the registry. We debuted that at the end of February this year, and we've been working very closely with our customers around the use of that ELD and also the broader platform that includes our tax solutions and our driver safety, health and safety solutions, and the maintenance pieces that Brittany alluded to. So yes, the answer is yes, we are able to provision and bring on fleets of over 100.
And Robert said, I agree with all the internal decrease in stress and accuracy, but how about the decrease of productivity per driver per truck? Can you speak a little bit about that?
So, you know, that's kind of an interesting conversation to have. I mean, the difference between, well, I can speak to it from a paper logbook, and I think Brittany needs to roll in here around the increased efficiency around the driver not having to calculate their state line crossings and calculate their miles. So Brittany, if you could roll in here. But you know, in terms of the ELD, this is just a different behavior. It's not paper-based, and you know, those who are going from an AOBRD to an ELD will have a different training involved to transition, but at the end of the day, it's going to automatically capture all of those miles and locations and things that are that pertain to the general form and manner and hours of service. So I'll give you an example, and this is a really small tactical one, but hours of service. So in a paper logbook, and I had a cadre of inspectors working for me when I was working for the Oregon Department of Transportation, and one of the things that we routinely stopped and wasted time for a driver on was general form and manner violations. And you know, the misrepresentation of a location, if we couldn't read it or we couldn't calculate the miles driven. So we held the driver and we held the company up at the weigh station or roadside regularly. So being able to save time through the enforcement process, through the annotation onto a paper logbook, you know, that the fuzzy line though is, how is a fleet or how is a company, how is a driver annotating their paper logs? Are they fudging a little bit? Are they, you know, shifting between the 15 minutes, you know, because that's in 15-minute increments. ELDs are real time. So where there are perhaps efficiencies lost, there are very definitely more efficiencies gained, is what I would say to that. So Brittany, do you want to talk a little bit about the miles and how they pertain to tax and drawing efficiency out of that real quick?
Yeah, so from a tax perspective, it's more about decreasing that distracted driving where they're trying to remember all the elements that they have to record when they cross a state line or when they take an entry and exit. So for us, it's really on the tax side, it's really about increasing not necessarily productivity, but increasing efficiency and accuracy. So as Gail kind of alluded to and I mentioned earlier, with an electronic record and an onboard device, all that information is captured without having the drivers to be distracted while they're driving and write all that information down. So from that standpoint, I would say it doesn't necessarily decrease productivity, but it increases your efficiency and accuracy, as well as compliance. So that's kind of, I think, what the question was around tax.
Great, thanks, Brittany. And so with the increased efficiency, is there any back office push or fear of losing their job? This is another question here.
You know, we've had this conversation with both our customers, our prospects, and out in the industry when we're at conferences and speaking. In terms of, again, I'll settle on the ELD aspect, but you know, really this becomes not a threat of somebody losing their job, whether it's in the back office or at the driver level. It's about change management and how some of those roles and responsibilities could be changing to both accommodate the new technology, but also take over other things, you know, that maybe were neglected before. All the paper, you know, while having to deal with all the paper. But I think a good provider is really going to help with that change management. They're going to come in and they're going to be mano a mano with you, helping train your drivers, train the back office, and understand where those efficiencies can be gained so that the management leadership of a company can really focus on where are the other things that we want to really pay attention to. So it's a partnership with your technology provider, whoever you pick. One of the questions that you really definitely need to ask is, what are you going to do to partner with me, not only on the customer service side, but on the change management side? And that should alleviate any fear of, you know, drivers or back office dispatchers or anybody for that matter losing their job. So, you know, it's a little bit of a fluffy answer, but I think it's really important, and that's definitely the conversation we've been having out in the industry. I just talked about that at ATA Leadership Conference in San Antonio. We had this very same conversation. So, you know, good question, but, you know, I think the thing that you're going to have to do when you're selecting a provider, whether you're going from AOBRD to ELD, you know, no tax to tax or no solution to ELD, you're going to have to ask your provider and hold them accountable for answering those transparent questions.
Thank you, Gail. And we had a question, is there a cost for me having the 1 second ping rate? Is there an additional cost to having the 1 second ping rate?
No, not at all. Brittany, do you want to take that question?
Yeah, that would be my response too. No, there isn't. That's kind of how the EROAD solution works, is that you do get 1 per second. It's included. There's no additional cost or fee associated with the rapid ping rate that EROAD provides for you.
I think, Brittany, it's important to note here that, we call it colloquially, that's a pretty good word for me to say, we call it 1 second ping rate, but really what it is it's uptaking that data and that location every second and uploading it every 15 seconds. So it's not the 15 minutes that you see with some providers, it's not the 1 hour that you see. It's very definitely a very rapid ping rate at the 1 per second. But when we say 1 second ping rate, it's just an issue of semantics. So I just wanted to be careful there.
And then we have another question. How do I contact EROAD if I want to understand a bit more about your services? And would it be possible to schedule a demo?
So the cool thing is we have a team of not only my team, strategy and market development. We do some of this, well, we do a lot of the regulatory subject matter expertise. Anything that you need on the regulatory side we can talk to. But one of the extra cool features that we have within our company is a team of sales engineers. And of course, our sales executives who are really, really, really knowledgeable about our product, as they should be. But those sales engineers can come in and really match the solution with the needs of the company. And yes, absolutely, any one of us can do a demo. A sales executive near you can do that, and they have the power of the entire company behind them in terms of support. So the phone number for EROAD is...
We will be sending out that information via email right after this. And then on our next slide, we also have our contact information, so you can contact both Gail and Brittany personally, and we will be able to put you in touch with those sales engineers to get you that demo and that additional information.
Totally. And so, Robert, your question about personal conveyance, in fact, this came up in our last webinar, and I will email you information around personal conveyance. I don't want to get too in the details, but yes, with an ELD, yard move and personal conveyance is a differentiator. It's very important, and let's take that offline, and I will get you all of the information that you need. Anybody else who's interested in that level of detail around the ELD, I'm certainly happy to either give you guys a call or support you with extra material and put you in touch with my team, who again are those subject matter experts around the ELD mandate.
All right, we have any additional questions? I think you're going to cover that with Robert.
Yeah, Robert asked where we've been at this 40 years, and all drivers quote fudge on logs, so when a driver needs an extra 15 to 30 minutes to complete a loading or offloading without having to shut down with ELDs, you can't fudge that. Shippers could potentially become less satisfied. So that's your company concern. So yes, I think the other thing that, if you take a step back and take a big picture approach here, being able to bring those shippers in with increased efficiency while you're on that yard. So for example, if you geofence a yard and you are able to more accurately measure the time in place and your movement around that yard and your time management around there, you'll be able to increase your efficiency there. But we'll take that offline. Yes, you can't fudge it. It is real time, but when an inspector looks at it, they are still going to be looking at it as if it's a paper logbook. They are trained. They're going to be trained. In fact, we're going to be part of that training with ELDs, and so it's a dialogue ongoing on how enforcement will be looking, transitioning their mentality from a paper logbook to an ELD, and what fudge factor they will be giving. So, the 15-minute increments, yes, it's on paper, and no, you can't do that with the technology, but enforcement's going to have to adapt. And in fact, we are very, very deep into the enforcement community in ensuring that they understand both EROAD's technology, but also, our subject matter expertise sometimes eclipses them a little bit, so we'll be talking about that, and we'll keep you informed for sure.
And so, Gail, we have another question. Why would I choose an in-vehicle device versus a bring-your-own device? Can you speak a little bit about that?
So Okay, so I just talked about enforcement. What I really like about this is we were just at the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance Forum. In fact, we've been at multiple. We're part of that community because we're close to roadside enforcement in terms of understanding their needs, and having been one myself, you know, we speak that language, so we do that on behalf of our customers. With regard to certain roadside enforcement jurisdictions, one of the things that we're hearing is that some jurisdictions are being told you cannot handle a device. So if somebody has a BYOD, you know, their own device, the law enforcement officer or the roadside inspector is not going to be able to handle that device. The data is going to have to be transferred, or in our case, the device can be passed out the window. So an in-cab vehicle hardware will have to be ultimately, under the mandate, passed out the window if it's tethered to the cab. And ours is tethered with I'd say extension cable, but it's a curlicue cable that is long enough and compact enough to be able to have the driver pass that out the window. So in terms of not breaking your device and keeping that device secure, I think that's the really cool feature. Additionally, with the tablet, you know, you're always upgrading. With EROAD system, for example, or any other in-cab hardware, we're one of the very few on the registry with in-cab hardware that's tethered inside. You don't have to keep changing and upgrading your tablets, and the data costs are much, much different there. So those are just a couple ideas, and you know, again, we can elaborate on those with a phone call directly if you're interested in that.
And how long do you think it will take for a company with 100 trucks to get this going and be trained on the ELD product?
Well, I think it depends on the company. Relatively not very long. It won't take months. It'll take, I would say, probably, you know, getting the contract, and I'm not a salesperson, so, but I know we do have a lot of EROAD sales executives listening in here, but I would say probably, you know, between the contract and the needs matching between EROAD and the company, getting the contract signed, getting those units provisioned, it largely depends on the company and what their tempo of uptake into their fleet is and what their plan is, and we can help with that, again, change management and installation and implementation. So it could take a month, it could take 2 months, it could take a little bit longer. It just depends on the totality of the circumstances, but our average is around 45 days from beginning to end. And so that's another good point, actually. It's really important for you guys to plan. You know, when you're choosing an ELD provider, again, if you're going from AOBRD to ELD, going from no technology to some technology, you must think about your fleet size, and you must think about what your provider can handle. So if there's a provider with a very large customer base that they're handling legacy AOBRDs, you know, they're going to have a completely different challenge than somebody with a little bit more dexterity like EROAD to be able to implement into a fleet of that size. So just some food for thought.
All right. Are there any other questions?
And certainly any further questions we can take offline. You know how to get a hold of us. Brittany will ensure that we send out information after the webinar. We'll do the cooler giveaway. And here's our phone numbers. You know, Brittany knows a little more than I do, but you can certainly call me. You can email me. Again, we have a team of regulatory experts, and we do a lot of the stakeholder engagement out in the community and the industry in support of our sales teams. Brittany Clark is, again, our product manager for our tax solutions, but she's very well versed in all of our products. You can give her an email or a phone call directly as well. So with that, oh, well, let me give you the phone number while we're on right now. Our general phone number for the office is 855-503-EROAD or 7623 EROAD, I think, right? Is it not EROAD? Hold on. EROAD.
It's 50 EROAD.
Oh, yeah, 50 EROAD. Okay, 855-50 EROAD, but 503-7623. So feel free to call, and we'll make sure we take care of you. And with that, we'll wrap up, and thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate being able to spend this time with you, and we'll do it again.
All right. Thank you very much for attending.
All right, we'll hang up now.